Hello people, this is Nico, and today I want to talk about love in the face of evidence and reality. Before I start this topic, I want to read this private message. Hello Nico, I've been thinking a great deal lately about what it is to be a MGTOW. While I'm thankful that I have the knowledge I heard every once in a while, it feels like we're all in the black hole of reality. I have to ask, what's supposed to be our end game? When I die, I don't want to feel like a lonely old man. I'll never trust women again. But how is MGTOW life supposed to end? A part of me feels like we shouldn't even be called MGTOW, or any name for that matter. Once you have the knowledge, what is there to be proud of? What is there to be happy about? Sorry if I'm rumbling, I've become a full-fledged MGTOW, not sure how I should feel about that. This is an example of lack of love and loneliness in a mind that has not yet accepted the fact that there is no such thing, and also lack of direction. I'm only going to focus on the love today and the loneliness part of things, and I'll just break things down. I'm not going to take the easy route of going about things. I want you guys to suffer along the journey with me. When I was a bit younger, some 13 years ago, I was disappointed because a girl would not love me despite my sweet nothings, poetry and innocent approaches and friendship and all that stuff. Idiotic childish things, and this was my first disappointment at the age of about 15. Sure, many disappointments came since, but your first turning down, it's something that uniquely hurts. I was in love with the idea of love, and as a consequence of that, it just really didn't make sense to me that she didn't love me back. But if she knew how I felt about her, she would surely be in love with me. I spent days thinking about her, texting her all the time while being friend-zoned simultaneously. I was a miserable bastard during that time. And when I looked at people for understanding, I had my friends who were equally, let's say, naive about these things and quite inexperienced. Therefore, I needed to go about things my own way and figure shit out for myself. This was my first realization that the knowledge of people on this very important, for me at the time, issue was imperfect, and everyone simply rationalized their experiences using anecdotal evidence. Additionally, I was so romantically involved with this notion of love that I needed a way out to unplug myself from this continuous thought pattern that was never ending and only brought me suffering. Therefore, I theorized that love is only love when it's shared between two people. Love, when it's stuck in one person's mind, is simply a delusionary process and something that is quite pathological. I could see the jealousy and the pathological attachment that I had formed with that one person, and I understood that that was indeed not normal. As such, by accepting the reality that love only exists when two people experience it simultaneously, I could unplug and move on with my life while maintaining in my head my concept and my love for the concept of love. It was the pussy way out, one that many guys take in varying degrees and forms. Of course, as I grew up and my body changed, my beard took form, my facial features got fixed, I started getting a good amount of pussy without any effort, and I actually ended up banging that chick that rejected me initially as a kind of revenge. Though it felt just, like sex, and it was quite unexciting and emotionally felt pretty much blunt, and I felt unchanged afterwards. All in all, the experience was average and easily forgettable. The whole point of those earlier years, though, was to remove myself from this pathological notion of love, and in that process, I introduced another pathology where love was only real when it's shared between two people. And how did I know that love was shared between those two people? Well, of course, I had to take the woman's word for it, because I knew what I felt. That led to broken relationships, sleeping with really weird chicks, girlfriends that forced the girlfriend title on themselves, and cohabitation at some point. Although many of the experiences were enjoyable, I believe now, reflecting back to all of these things, that I held on despite misery building, because that woman loved me. Or so she claimed, and I didn't want to be the asshole that I felt someone else was to me before. But love, of course, in the way that I thought about it, was imaginary and quite plainly a childhood interpretation of a notion incompletely understood by a young and immature person, such as the one I was and still am. The error of my ways was found later, a lot later on, The error was understanding that love is not something sacred, and women were not weak and did not require my love in any way, shape, or form. When I understood distinctly 4 to 5 years back that love is not a magical concept, but rather an artificial and delusionary state that happens within a person's brain, when my understanding of love was eventually seen as what it was, a childish interpretation of that concept, I was released from its grasp. For me, love became again a one-sided deal. Ideally, both man and a woman can experience it simultaneously in a relationship, and both of their brains will be flooding with chemicals, exciting their synapses with substances such as oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine. Surely it was possible that this thing could be happening simultaneously, but it was unrealistic to expect that it was happening to a similar degree in two distinctly different individuals. One of the two was surely more fond of the other. And also, you would expect people to be at different levels of the process, i.e. some at the beginning and others closer to the end of the magic spell. When the reality of that hit me, then love became a drug that was affecting the brain of the individual, and the other person became the supply. The one who felt less became the supplier, while the other person became the user. I see these realities play out all the time in the real world. This took a large part of the appeal of the love concept away from me and made me notice all of these weird and unrealistic attachments that formed in the past with females, and how at present time similar attachments were happening from females towards me because I had less of a need for it and had as such become the supplier. In summary, love became an artificial, non-permanent state of insanity, providing extremes of emotions to individuals in order to promote their attachments to a person, with the ultimate hope that one of those many attachments, meaning sex of course, would lead to the reproductive end goal of evolution, the offspring, and hence the magic was gone. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't presume to say that all love is bad or useless because it's an artificial concept, not at all. In fact, English is a horrible language for explaining the concept of love. Love, as the one exhibited by a man and a woman, is initially simply lust and then results to eros, the ancient Greek word for it, which means love with sexual attraction. Love for your children is distinctly different to that, and again, in ancient Greek, that would be called storge, which in essence means love and affection. The neurotransmitters in our brain that have to do with attraction and bonding are similar, and they act in similar pathways, so the English language may not be that horrible in describing love as much as I thought, but we all understand the different feelings experienced between the love for a child, relative, parents, and that for a woman. As such, I believe that everlasting bonds, the ones to do with family and friends, are essential and have been essential for centuries, and is why they feel permanent. That type of love is something that makes sense both evolutionary and also personally. However, the notion of pair bonding between man and woman, that type of love, can be assumed to be imagined and only present in the brain of one person at any one time. Even if the emotion is present in the other person, the reality of the matter is that the emotion will deteriorate from passionate love, the eros that the Greeks talked about, to mere normality, which is initially experienced as friendship. Even if the concept of love that I still maintain exists in women too as a true experience, it is one that is sexually dimorphic and experienced very differently by both sexes. The reasons for this distinction have to do with circuitry, different modes of attraction, different modes of reward, and interconnections between hemispheres, as well as the hormonal basis and makeup of a man and a woman. Therefore, love as the woman experiences it does not exist in the brain of a man, and love as it is experienced by the man cannot be experienced in the brain of a woman. If we want to be real about it, here's reality for you. Evolutionary psychology and the like are irrelevant. All we need to understand and accept this very simple point is this. Men and women look different, have different hormonal profiles, have different brain capacities, think differently, as their brains are actually wired differently, and as such think and feel and experience things differently. As such, experiences of love will be different and will result in different behavioral patterns as they do, nesting for women and providing for men. These initial mating strategies worked very well, and they still do work. The chemicals settle down and normalize within 6 months to a year, but then a child is born. The feelings between man and woman then become irrelevant. The male and female are still connected with bonds of courtship, but the main connecting dot is either the need for affection and intimacy, fear of abandonment, or the child that's keeping them together. However, the eros of the past is now gone, and that is the type of love that a young man wants to find. the exciting and inviting, passionate and sexual love between man and woman. This is why marriage is and has always been an unnatural institution, because biologically we're not designed for long-term pair bonding, and the initial excitement only fades away with time and is long forgotten afterwards. As you have seen, I have used almost no MGTOW ideas so far to explain this. I had no need to bring hypergamy into the picture, though it plays a role. It can be sidestepped, and this point can still be proven by using simple logic. Therefore, the only people who may benefit from a marriage or a long-term relationship along with cohabitation are the resulting offspring. Neither man nor woman will benefit as much as they would if they were to live alone. Although studies have shown that women usually require a man in order to be happy, but studies don't say that they're required to get married for that. Acquiring an adult understanding of love as a concept proves that for both men and women, the emotion is not long-lasting. However, given social norms, this short-lived state is usually followed by marriage and children. I'm willing to argue that love, for the most part, when controlled and experienced to a degree, whereby a man can still have conscious understanding of what's going on in his brain at the time, can limit his exposure into long-term unhappiness. In actual fact, the phenomenon of awakened while married proves the point that understanding the reality of things can still maintain a relationship due to the beneficial long-term effects that the relationship can have on the offspring. But selfishly speaking, a man who gets married is by no means happier than a man that remains single, especially if that man has understood the basis of these very few and simple ideas about love. Because though a man might appreciate the idea of partnership, he appreciates the idea of freedom more. He appreciates the idea of justice more. All of these things are lost when a man commits legally to a person. He takes a rope and ties it around his neck and walks around being dragged by the constant reminder that this shitty deal could end. And if this shitty deal ends, then even these few things that I have built for myself can be taken away from me. In actual fact, love, as it is portrayed right now in society, it is viewed more like a religion rather than anything else. There are no realistic expectations from people, and they're viewed distinctly from the point of view of the woman for reasons that have to do with long-term protection and provision for the bearer of the golden uterus, which will provide the birthplace for the next generation. Men and women alike, despite their level of education or intelligence, universally believe that love, this high and mighty concept, is something greater than anything else. They hope that they will experience it, they dream about it, and imagine that at some point love will set them free. These people, being modern intellectuals, will discuss religion, the universe, gender dynamics and relationships, but almost all of them have love as the ultimate God in their lives, the unquestionable and superhumane concept. I find that the truth is often served cold from old men and women as to how things really work and what it took for them to get a working relationship. But nobody listens to these people because information is coming to our screens from advertisements, TV shows and movies that teach us time and time again otherwise. Therefore, with this continuous brainwashing of what is attractive, enjoyable and what's needed, what can a man do that has found the truth and yet finds himself in this state of constant want, despite knowing this truth? Well, dear men, that is the next step, that of not caring and actually accepting things. And I know that many of these videos sound depressing, monotonous, raw, but truth often is. I know that some of you want to be motivated to work and move on, especially when you have to go to work and live and continue living with your monotonous lives. But it is not lack of motivation that troubles you. You have been suffering from that from the very beginning. It is lack of hope. Because though your dreams would have been inevitably crushed, or at least for the majority of you, crushed in the past, you at least had hope that you could make it into the eternal hug of love, and now you know that this will never happen. Let's take 1 minute and think about all of this. Is it better to hold on to an illusion in order to get by? Is it better to be happy based on lies? Is it better that every time you fall down 500 feet instead of 2? Man, I'm so fed up of hearing that all these ideas are simply depressing. Yes, people, life can be depressing. Trust me, I know. I see people suffering, dying. I break bad news to people's families. I announce of their relatives passing and see people take their last breaths. Yeah, life is fucking hard. Life sucks. Reality sucks. The point is to be at the front line and see all of these things, know all of these things, understand all of these things, and then think, wait a minute, I'm still alive. I have to fucking go on. And then you do go on. Information about the truth of things, realities that make adults cry, are simply that, realities. And yeah, we all hurt a little bit every now and then, but c'est la vie. I often think that I had different parenting, with my parents putting me face to face with death, with suffering, and facing personal hardships, that I ended up developing really hard skin. Or that maybe they taught me something special, but I don't think so. That's not why I go on. It's because I can't accept to kneel down to any man or any reality, or any woman for that matter. That's the driving force for me, and that's why I just take it to the chin and accept all of the things that are unavoidable realities. That's why I want to see what works, and then what I can make work. Maybe you guys need motivation, maybe you guys need understanding, and I understand where you're coming from more times than not, but a man can lift you up, a man can teach you how to fish, and then that man disappears and continues with his life, and he's fishing. Then the rest is up to you. The recipe that may work for that man may not be for you, and you are looking outwards to find motivation or pleasing answers. There are no pleasing answers, there is nothing easy out there. Play some music, drink your beer, calm your insecurities and your thoughts, get dressed and just go out. Decide and then do. I can talk about it for years, but do and live and lift yourselves up from your slumbers. Fucking hell. I mean, life sucks, life ends, people live, people die, there is no love, women, feminists and all this noise. It's all background noise, and I'm perfectly aware that I just made that noise myself in order to illustrate the above point. But fuck it. These thoughts will fade away in your head, and then they will guide you. But only you can lift yourself up and walk out and do. So go out and do, and forget about love and shape your own unhappiness. Yeah, and I did say unhappiness there. Thank you for listening. If you liked, like and share. If you don't know me, subscribe. If you disagree or need hugs and kisses, go ahead and unsubscribe. Take care.